And that's the way the cookie crumbles. Anywho, sup Nerdmigos? I'm the Jive Talking Nerd, John Norgrove. We've got Wife here. There's some sleepy dogs on the ground. We're here for review, Jive. I almost forgot what we were here for. Today's movie review, the review for today,
Today's review
is Jeruzalem with a Z.
With a Z. Jerusalem.
It's Jerusalem, but the S is a Z. Jeruzalem with a Z. It's...
Read the thing.
It's a 2015 horror movie.
Uh-huh.
This was actually really good.
Yeah.
Julie had seen this before. I had never seen this before.
In fact, the first time I watched it, you were out of town because you were at Great American Beer Fest.
Yes, I was in Denver.
And that was during October when we could only watch horror movies. I liked it so much that I literally watched it twice in a row.
Yeah.
I already was familiar with the plot of this.
This was really good.
I feel like this movie is a good intersection between like a monster flick, like zombies, that kind of thing, Cloverfield, and As Above, So Below. And with like a little smidge of Hostel. Because they're traveling in a foreign place.
Yeah, sure, okay.
Not because they get captured and
yeah,
tortured.
no,
None of that.
I think of this as being like, what's that Haunted Vatican one?
Are you talking about As Above, So Below?
No, the Haunted Vatican one.
The Haunted Vatican? I'm not sure.
Well, there's like a demons in the Vatican movie. I feel like this is like a churchy demon movie mixed with As Above, So Below. I think it might actually be called Vatican. No.
Oh, okay, I didn't know.
Is Tom Hanks in a horror movie?
No, he's in one that's like all religious-y and stuff.
Yeah, that's not haunted at all.
Oh, okay.
There's nothing haunting in that.
I've seen it maybe once and never read the books, so I don't know.
Are you talking about the Da Vinci Code?
Yeah, it's not about hauntings.
Okay, well, I don't know how to cope with the level of stupid that exists within, so we're just gonna fucking move on.
Anyway!
3 friends, Sarah, Rachel, and Kevin, take a holiday in Jerusalem and are having a great time in the historic city. But the tide soon turns and they enter a biblical nightmare where they are chased by winged demons from hell.
That's not too far off.
Yeah.
That's close enough.
So this movie does a couple of strange things. There are a couple of strangities to this movie. First of all, this is one of those, like, first-person horror movies, so it's shot via our main character's, like...
Google
Glasses, basically, but they're, like, way more advanced than Google Glasses ever were. But they're, like, shot via her Google Glasses, which is an interesting thing to do, to have the camera be like a character clearly.
Yeah.
This takes place in the city of Jerusalem, and this movie doesn't have a lot of misdirects, but it has a lot of setup for a lot of misdirects.
Yeah. There's a lot of foreshadowing. There's
weird.
A lot of setup.
There's a lot of like,
exquisite.
Is this guy gonna be a piece of shit? And then you're like, oh no. Nope, he's actually a good guy the whole time. Okay. Is this guy gonna be a piece of shit? And you're like, oh no, this guy's a good guy. Oh, it's just the demons are pieces of shit.
Yeah, throughout
Very
the whole
surprising.
thing, because of watching like a lot of other horror movies, you like expect the people that our main characters meet in Jerusalem to be bad people in some way, and they're not.
Good.
They're all good the whole time. They mean the best, and they don't do anything bad, really. I mean, there's a couple of things that it's like, oh, you said something that hurt my feelings, but like it's not nothing like that. None of that matters. No. But basically, our main characters are 2 girls, and they live in America, and they're going to Israel. Their plan was to go to Tel Aviv, but they meet a cute boy on the plane, Kevin, and he's like, "Hey, ladies, come to Jerusalem with me. It'll be super cool."
They were intending to do Tel Aviv first and then Jerusalem second.
Yeah.
And this kid that they meet on the plane, Kevin, this man they meet on the plane, Kevin, whatever. They call him Indiana Jones, and he has like a very strange accent.
He does have a very strange accent.
I don't know where it's from, but it's an interesting accent.
We were trying to figure it out the whole time. Is it Dutch? I think it's Dutch.
Yeah, maybe. It's not sing-songy enough to be Dutch. But so
he's an archaeologist.
Yeah, he's an archaeologist.
Rather, he's an anthropologist. That's what he says he is.
And he's very like the person who explains stuff character in the movie.
And he studies, like, Bible-y stuff.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, you learn a lot about him throughout the movie. I mean, you learn a lot about everybody throughout the movie.
Yeah.
But he basically is like, listen, like, Tel Aviv isn't going to go nowhere or change nothing, but we've got this big, like, holiday coming up in Jerusalem, and it's like a big
Jewish.
Festival and all this.
Well, the girls are. I don't think he is.
I don't know if he's Jewish, but the girls are both Jewish, and so they're like, oh, like, we can go to we'll just rearrange our plans and we'll go to Jerusalem first. Yeah. So they go to Jerusalem. Horrible fucking idea. Crazy foreshadowing.
Yeah,
crazy foreshadowing.
We don't want to give away any of the twists because the twists are fantastic.
We're not gonna spoil this. This is spoiler free.
All the set design is beautiful. I have never been to Jerusalem. I cannot tell you at all what it looks like.
We can't attest to the accuracy.
In my mind's eye, this is what it would look like. The characters have really all the characters have enough backstory so that they're not quite two-dimensional. So there's a little bit extra that's thrown in there, as well as they keep the mystery with some of the characters. Yeah. So it's nice because you have a lot of characters that feel like on the outset they're going to be the standard horror movie trope, but they're not, and it's really cool because this movie really tries to not go into too many of the horror tropes. Although there are some, and they're fine, and they're well done, and there are some jump scares as well.
There's a few
but
jump
not many.
scares. Not many.
Most of the horror with this is either in the confusion of the action, such as with Cloverfield, you see that.
It's very crawly chaos.
Or
in regard.
the build up and some of the misdirect and the foreshadowing,
it's
as you see in like So Below, and you see in like Hostel. The Descent also.
Right. It's very it's a very on rails horror movie, insofar as like you know, as the plot progresses, the characters have to follow a path, right, that leads them into like progressively, don't go in there, levels of fucking insanity, but they have no other choice except for a few instances you either go in there or like stay out here with that monster shit. So go in there, kind of a thing.
It's very tense.
It's very tense, and the movie has a lot of the movie's like off-putting from the very beginning. You're like the whole time you're just like, this is weird,
like a little, you know,
unsettling. And then they're like at one point in time, you know, like at one point in time she's trying to talk to this guy. And he's just being a little weird. Or they're gonna go to the club, but they're just acting a little bit. There's just a lot of discomfort and like weirdness. And what that does is that kind of puts you on edge. And the characters, honestly, they like talk out a lot of their decisions and like think things through. But they're sort of like, one, forced on these rails, but two, they're like, they don't know what to do. Yeah. You know, they're foreigners in a foreign land. Yeah. And
because you're seeing this through the first person lens of the Google Glass.
Of the glasses.
You really feel a lot of that yourself. Where you're like, okay, well, like me personally, like I've never been there. I don't speak any of the languages from there. I don't know anyone there. Like, how would I handle that situation? It's stressful to think about that because these things that are happening are scary, and that's really where like Hostel is you know, is kind of like. And I'm not talking about the second part where everybody's locked up and it's like horror torture.
No.
I'm talking about the beginning part. This is not at all like that. But the beginning parts where you're in a foreign land and you know you're making decisions and maybe
unexpected shit is happening that you don't have control over. Well, the movie does this thing where, and it does this often throughout the movie, where a character starts taking actions, and as the audience, because we're not in this situation, right? We're observing the situation. You're like, this is fucking dumb. Don't do this. And then like, after a beat of these actions, they have to do more of it, or they're doing more of it, and then the character starts to become aware that this is dumb. They shouldn't be doing this. And by that point in time, you're like, all right, listen, you got to turn around, or you got to whatever. And then a beat later, they're like, all right, I gotta find this, or I gotta whatever. And so the actions in the story sort of lead the audience like a step ahead of the characters, so it doesn't make the characters feel like, and I think that this is really common, especially in like Americans Abroad style horror, but really for any sort of like haunting or slasher or like monster horror where your main characters are like the most bumbling of buffoonery, right?
Yeah.
Whereas these characters are have that hint of awareness where they're just like I know this is dumb, but I have to do this, or like holy shit, I'm lost, but I don't know how to get unlost, so I'm just gonna keep moving forwards. You know, that kind of a thing. And it really builds. This is a very tension-driven movie.
Yeah. Well, and especially because really you hit the nail on the head when you said that the camera is a character. Because it's all being seen through the Google Glass. There's no additional cameras or anything like that. It's just through this character's Google Glass. So, like, if her glasses fall off her face, and they do, then you're looking at it from the perspective of the glasses, which may not be the same as her perspective.
Yeah. When she's scared, she looks away from something. And the glasses obviously use
but the glasses use
fill
technology.
space.
So the glasses have a lot of technological things. So like she takes some phone calls from her dad, and it's like video chat, and you see her dad's face on the screen. And but the glasses have probably the most unsettling thing that the glasses do is at one point the glasses kind of like short out a little bit, so there's like some weirdness with the way that the facial recognition goes. So whenever it tries to facially recognize someone, it shows the two eyes and it shows the mouth and it shows it like in brackets.
It shows like a box with like eye box and mouth
like
box
facial
for facial
recognition.
tracking. Yeah.
And you throughout the whole movie you see this, but there are some ways that the glasses glitch, especially with the facial recognition, that are just incredibly creepy. They utilize the technology. Was that a face or was that just like some markings on a wall? Like you don't really know, and things are going so fast sometimes that it really like makes it creepier, and you can tell that makes the main character more scared as well.
Yeah,
and so it's not like you're seeing it and
all
she's
of the characters get arcs. Like there's our three main characters, the two chicks and the kid, the guy in the Indiana Jones. But then there's also the
son of the guy who has the inn.
Yeah, the son of the inn.
His father, the owner
his father.
Of the inn.
There are the two military guys.
And the crazy two military guys.
So even the crazy guy in the street and the two military guys, they get arcs, right? Yeah. You meet them and you learn about them, and then they go through some stuff. So like everybody gets a really good arc. Everything is really well thought out in the movie, and especially the way that they use the camera. So as a generality, I don't like shaky cam movies. I don't get motion sickness or anything like that. It's just that a lot of people use it cheaply. I feel like most shaky cam movies, especially shaky cam horror movies, are very like, we can use the camera to like obfuscate the audience from parts of the story that would be shown from third party perspective, right? It's I forget what movie we recently saw where like, you know, the person's talking to the camera and then like the camera turns around and there's a monster behind where the camera was positioned.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, but the person would have been facing that direction, right? So they utilize a lot of those kind of follow cam, shaky cam sort of horror movies, sort of overutilize the camera to hide shit. Whereas I feel like this movie did the exact opposite, and it used the camera to benefit the action and goings-on and tension in the movie. One, with like the facial recognition. In general, any glitches, things like the character not looking up because they're running really fast, or seeing something and then glancing back and it's gone because there's that human speed of glance kind of a thing.
Yeah.
As well as, like, there's a scene where the glasses glitch out and like a bunch of music plays. Right, but it's used in a good way. And literally, every single beat of this movie is hinted at earlier in this movie.
Yeah.
It's fucking insane.
And another interesting
the more and more I
thing
think
that
about
this
it, the
movie
more and more I
does-
can find examples of it.
Yeah. Well, another interesting thing this movie does, and something that we learned from it also, is very similar to what The Descent does. For those of you that have seen The Descent, one of the things that they talk about early on in that movie, The Descent is a movie about people spelunking, so going into caves. And they talk about having, I forget the term for it from The Descent, but basically if you are in a cave and you're spelunking, you have to be careful for essentially kind of going a little crazy, like hallucinations, both visual and auditory, and all that other stuff. And there is something that happens with that they refer to in this movie also, and I don't remember what it's called, but it's like Jerusalem syndrome.
Oh,
or something like that. I had never heard of this before the movie, and honestly, the first 2 times I watched the movie, I just figured they'd made it up for the movie. But this guy actually knew about it.
Yeah. So so Jerusalem syndrome. They talk about it in this movie, and Jerusalem syndrome is this thing. And there's like papers on this, right? But it's this like thing that happens to foreigners, especially Western, like Americans, who travel to Jerusalem, where they kind of go a little insane. They sort of get like taken up into religious fervor, and they start like legitimately, and these are like key points in it. They start wandering away from the group, on their own. They start like wearing bed sheets like robes, or wandering around naked, or dressing in like robed or like sort of loose fitting, flowing, specifically white garments to feel more like holy. Generally, like a lot of hattery happens. A lot of like religious. This is my scepter, and it's like, that's a curtain rod, you crazy bastard. But okay, kind of stuff. And a lot of like preaching about things, and it's this sort of like kind of insane religious fervor thing that happens in Jerusalem. I've heard about this just through like History Channel stuff and Science Channel stuff and things like that. And it was interesting to see them not only mention it, but like try to use it to address some of the actions that happen in the movie as the movie progresses. Because we're not really, as much as there's lead up to everything, and you're sort of, everything's like hinted at, you don't know what things that are being hinted at, what they apply to at the end, until the end, when they're like, we have to go do this thing. And then you're like, oh...
Yeah.
I get it. Cheeky bastards. So, but it was interesting for them to utilize a real life thing like that and like twist it even further. I mean, this was honestly a fantastic movie.
Yeah,
I will give this 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
This is up there with me and my all-time favorite horror movies, As Above, So Below. I think that's a perfect movie, and this is incredibly similar to that with regard to a lot of the details in the way that they do things. I definitely am going to have to watch this again shortly. We watched Jerusalem on Shudder.
But I've also seen it on Netflix. Honestly, if you guys don't have a way to watch it free, rent it. Or,
it's worth it.
If it sounds good from what we're saying, buy it.
Yeah. Or get Shudder. We're not associated with them, but we just got it, and they have so many good horror movies. So get Shudder. It looks awesome. But yeah, either way, I've been John Norgrove. This has been Wife. Don't forget to like this video, comment below, share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all that kind of stuff. This
have
was
you seen this?
Jive.
What do you think? Let us know.
We watched Jerusalem with a Z, and yeah.
We'll catch you next time.
Let us know about more horror. You want to watch more horror?
Yeah.
All the horror.